hostage standoff at an Algerian gas facility has come to a violent end. Government forces staged another assault on that sprawling plant Saturday, but it was costly. The government says at least 23 hostages and 32 terrorists died during the 4-day siege, 18 of them in Saturday's bloody finale. Algerian state news says nearly 800 workers were freed. Algeria's military says it continues to sweep the plant for mines and explosives planted by the militants. Britain and Norway are still trying to locate a number of their citizens who at this point are unaccounted for.
The 4-day crisis finally over. Amateur pictures are starting to emerge, apparently taken in stealth as the grim events unfolded in the desert, including this chilling glimpse of one gunman in army fatigues. Also emerging are the stories of those who survived the ordeal, including Mohammed. We were surrounded by militants in a room, he says. It's a miracle we're alive.
Of
course we were afraid. We've never seen anything like it before. We didn't expect that they could access the base where we were living so easily.
I've seen the terrorists came. They start to shoot the security guys from the gate. After that, they enter inside the offices' buildings. They start to take hostages. And I barricade myself with another colleague of mine.
The crisis began in the early hours of Wednesday morning when gunmen attacked the sprawling complex, taking hundreds hostage. On Thursday, an initial assault by Algerian forces killed both militants and captives, though many other hostages escaped. On Saturday, the Algerian army stormed the complex again. The government says that by the time its troops went in, the 7 remaining hostages had already been executed. This amateur video appears to show the burnt-out vehicles that were bombed by Algerian forces on Thursday, killing both hostages and their captors. Some commentators have criticised the government for acting too hastily. But leaders in the United States and France refused to condemn the Algerian response, instead placing the blame firmly on the kidnappers.
Just as we cannot accept terrorism attacks against our cities, we cannot accept attacks against our citizens and our interests abroad. Neither can we accept an Al-Qaeda safe haven anywhere in the world.
The Algerian government says 23 hostages have been killed, but the nationality of some is still not known. A number of workers at the plant, including Japanese, American, British, Malaysian and Norwegian citizens, remain unaccounted for.
Algerian Interior Ministry officials released a statement on Saturday night and said Algerian soldiers had killed 32 militants and freed 107 foreigners and 685 Algerian workers who were being held hostage. The statement also said that Algerian soldiers had gathered heavy weapons, including machine guns and grenades. The latest developments came following a standoff between the military and hostage takers, holed up at the gas plant in the eastern Algerian city of In Amenas. Algerian government officials told representatives from Japan, the UK and other countries concerned that its military forces successfully subdued the Islamic militants.
A further 16 hostages were freed, including 2 Americans on Saturday. The army found 15 burnt bodies at the plant. But the exact death toll, including gunmen, Algerians and foreigners taken hostage, is still unclear.
We believe that there are 5 British nationals and 1 UK resident who are either deceased or unaccounted for, in addition to the 1 fatality that we had already confirmed.
Since the Algerian military moved in, there have been questions about their course of action. Now we may start to get answers about their tactics and about what those held captive went through.
They all said, this is not Algeria, they are not, terrorists do not come from Algeria. We are so embarrassed, we apologise.
Other workers have described explosives being strapped to them. Even in the final stages, there was more bloodshed, reports claiming 7 hostages were killed.
The plant's co-owner, BP, says 4 staff are still missing.
Tragically, we have grave fears that we may have fatalities from this group. We're working very closely with the families, providing them information, counseling, and other needs.
Publicly, at least, the militants had offered to release hostages in return for the freedom of Islamist prisoners. But it seems the gunmen never intended to negotiate. Workers described how the gunmen went from room to room hunting for non-Muslims.
They started to shoot at us, so we went back to the bedrooms, but we heard the Japanese men talking in English and the terrorists shouting, "God is greatest." And we also heard the sound of shooting. The next day we went back to the base and we found their dead bodies.
French President François Hollande said Algeria had acted the only way it could.
We don't yet have all the facts, but when you have a hostage taking with this many people involved, and terrorists coldly determined and ready to murder their hostages, which they did, I think Algeria had the most appropriate response, where there could have been no negotiation.
As details continued to trickle in, Britain's defence minister expressed his nation's anger, laying the blame in one direction.
The loss of life as a result of these attacks is appalling and unacceptable, and we must be clear that it is the terrorists that bear sole responsibility for it. Their actions can never be justified, and we remain determined to defeat terrorism and to stand with the Algerian government.
Algerian authorities are still picking up the pieces from the final assault on Amenas and treating the wounded left behind.